The training facility hummed with the nervous energy of 200 cadets, all of us packed into the observation deck like sardines in a very uncomfortable can. I pressed my sensory tendrils against the reinforced glass, watching the empty arena below with a mixture of dread and morbid curiosity. "This is suicide," my podmate Krelix whispered beside me, his scales flickering that particular shade of green that meant he was about to lose his breakfast. "They cannot seriously expect us to learn from them." Oh, but they could. And they did. Because when humanity joined the Galactic Coalition 3 cycles ago, they brought with them a reputation that made even the Vraxian war clans nervous. Humans, we'd learned very quickly, did not play by anyone's rules, not even the laws of common sense. The instructor, a Tholian with more combat medals than I had limbs, raised all 4 of his arms for silence. "Cadets, today marks your introduction to advanced combat techniques. Your teacher is Specialist Maya Reeves, recently transferred from Earth's Special Operations Command." A human woman entered the arena, and, honestly, she looked about as threatening as a Fluxian pudding. Average height for her species, lean build, dark hair pulled back in what I'd learned was called a ponytail. She wore simple gray training clothes and walked with her hands in her pockets, like she was taking a stroll through a garden, not entering a combat assessment watched by 200 terrified recruits. "Is this a joke?" someone muttered behind me. "That's our instructor?" The woman, Maya, stopped in the center of the arena and looked up at us. Even from here, I could see her smile. It was the kind of smile that said she knew exactly what we were thinking, and she found it hilarious. "All right." Her voice carried through the speakers with that particular casual confidence that humans seem to wear like a second skin. "I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, wow, this human looks incredibly average and not at all scary. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I am incredibly average for a human." She let that hang in the air for a moment while the implications settled over us like a cold blanket. "Now, before we begin, I want to introduce you to my training partner." She put 2 fingers in her mouth and whistled, a sharp sound that made half the cadets jump. "Come on out, sweetie." Something moved in the shadows at the edge of the arena. Something big. Krelix grabbed my arm. "Please tell me that's not what I think it is." It was exactly what he thought it was. The creature that padded into the light was a Terran canine. Specifically, if my xenobiology lessons served me correctly, a German Shepherd. But knowing the classification did nothing to prepare me for the reality of it. The animal was massive, easily reaching the human woman's hip, with thick fur in shades of black and tan, pointed ears that swiveled independently, and teeth that were very, very visible when it opened its mouth in what humans called a pant. "Everyone, meet Brutus," Maya said, scratching the beast behind its ears like it wasn't an apex predator wearing a fur coat. "He's 3 years old, loves belly rubs, and has a vocabulary of approximately 47 commands. He's also trained in apprehension, tracking, and threat neutralization. But don't worry." That smile again. "He's not in fight mode yet." The word "yet" echoed in my mind like a death sentence. "Now!" Maya clapped her hands together, making several cadets flinch. "Who wants to volunteer for a demonstration?" Silence. The kind of silence that you could cut with a knife and serve for dinner. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I'm pretty sure Krelix's heart stopped entirely for a few seconds. The Tholian instructor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Cadet Vex, please join Specialist Reeves in the arena." Oh no. That was me. That was my name. "Move it, cadet," the instructor barked, and my legs, traitors that they were, started carrying me toward the stairs before my brain could properly object. The walk down to the arena floor felt like walking to my own execution. Every step echoed in the sudden silence. 200 pairs of eyes watched me descend, and one pair of very intense canine eyes that tracked my movement with the precision of a targeting computer. I reached the arena floor, and the woman, Maya, turned to me with that casual smile still in place. Up close, she looked even less threatening. There was actually a bandage on her thumb, the kind you'd get from a minor kitchen accident. This was supposed to be our advanced combat instructor? "Relax," she said, clearly reading my body language. Humans were disturbingly good at that. "What's your name?" "Cadet Vex, Specialist," I managed, keeping my sensory tendrils carefully neutral. "Third class, Reconnaissance Division." "Vex? Cool name. You any good at recon?" I ranked 7th in my training cohort." "7th? Not bad at all." She gestured to the open space around us. "Okay, Vex, here's the scenario. You're on a reconnaissance mission, solo, no backup. You turn a corner, and there I am, enemy combatant, and I've got my guard dog with me. What do you do?" I looked at her, then at Brutus, then back at her. "Surrender?" She laughed. Actually laughed, like I'd told a genuinely funny joke instead of stating what seemed like the only logical option. "See? That's everyone's first instinct. But here's the thing about humans, Vex. We domesticated wolves. Do you know what that means? That you're clinically insane?" Another laugh, and I heard a few nervous chuckles from the observation deck. "Fair point. But no. It means we took one of Earth's most efficient pack predators and turned them into our best friends over the course of 30,000 years. We reshaped them, trained them, bred them for specific purposes. Brutus here? His ancestors hunted prey twice their size. His bite force is around 330 pounds per square inch. He can run at speeds up to 30 miles per hour and keep it up way longer than you'd think. And most importantly," she leaned in like she was sharing a secret, "he'll do whatever I tell him to do, exactly when I tell him to do it. Because I've spent 3 years building trust with him. That's not just combat training. That's partnership." I stared at her. "That's terrifying." "I know, right?" She was still smiling. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give Brutus a command in German, which is what he's trained in. You're going to try to evade him. Don't worry, he won't actually hurt you. He's trained for controlled takedowns. Ready?" "No." "Great. Brutus, such." The dog's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The friendly, panting animal vanished, replaced by something that moved with terrible purpose. He lunged forward, and I did the only thing my panic-soaked brain could think of. I ran. Bad idea. Very bad idea. Brutus covered the distance between us in seconds. I felt weight hit my back, and suddenly I was on the ground with 100 pounds of muscle and fur standing on me. Teeth hovered inches from my neck, and hot breath warmed my sensory tendrils. "Aus! Platz!" Maya called, and instantly the pressure vanished. Brutus sat beside my head, tail wagging like nothing had happened, while I lay there trying to remember how my respiratory system worked. Maya offered me a hand up. I took it, largely because my legs weren't quite ready to function independently yet. 7 seconds, she said cheerfully. Not bad for a first attempt. Most people go down in 4. Want to know the secret? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Don't run. Prey runs. If you run, you activate every single hunting instinct bred into him over thousands of years. Instead, you need to understand what you're facing, know your opponent, know what triggers them, know what they're trained to do and how they're trained to do it. She paused. Also, in a real combat situation, you'd want to aim for the handler, not the dog. Dogs protect their humans with everything they've got, but they're ultimately taking commands from someone. Disrupt the communication, and you disrupt the attack. The Tholian instructor's voice boomed through the speakers. Specialist Reeves, perhaps a more advanced demonstration? Oh, you want the fun stuff? Maya's smile took on a different quality. Not menacing exactly, but definitely confident. All right, Vex, you can head back up. Thanks for being a good sport. I didn't need to be told twice. I practically scrambled back to the observation deck where Krelix pulled me into our pod with shaking hands. Are you intact? He demanded. Physically? Yes. Psychologically? Ask me in a few cycles. Down in the arena, Maya was setting up something. The floor panels shifted, revealing an obstacle course that definitely hadn't been there before. Walls, barriers, elevated platforms, and what looked like several armed drones. This is a standard urban combat scenario, Maya explained, her voice carrying clearly. Multiple threats, complex terrain, limited visibility. Watch what happens when you add a properly trained dog to the equation. She gave Brutus a hand signal, nothing more, and the dog took off like a furry missile. What happened next was like watching poetry, written in violence and precision. The drones activated, firing training rounds that would sting but not injure. Brutus dodged the first volley with reflexes that should have been impossible for something that size, then leaped onto a barrier and used it as a springboard to reach an elevated platform. He hit the ground on the other side, immediately locating a hidden target, a training dummy holding a weapon, and took it down with a flying tackle that would have absolutely incapacitated a real opponent. All while Maya moved through the course in perfect coordination, using Brutus as both scout and assault partner. When a drone got a lock on her, Brutus was there, positioning himself as a distraction while she flanked. When she needed a path cleared, Brutus cleared it. They moved like they were parts of the same organism, anticipating each other's actions with minimal communication. The entire demonstration took maybe 2 minutes. When it was over, both human and dog stood in the center of a thoroughly conquered obstacle course, not even breathing hard. The observation deck was dead silent. Maya looked up at us. Questions? A Vraxian in the front row raised a claw hesitantly. The beast? It follows complex commands without verbal instruction. Hand signals, body language, and about 3,000 hours of training. Brutus knows what I need often before I need to tell him. That's what happens when you build a real partnership instead of just barking orders. But another cadet spoke up, a Kixian whose translator made her sound skeptical. This is one animal. One very impressive animal, I'll admit, but still just one. How is this applicable to actual military operations with multiple units? Maya's smile became downright predatory. Great question. Who here knows about the Battle of Proxima Station? A few hesitant appendages rose. I'd heard of it. Everyone had heard of it. The colony that had held against a raiding fleet 3 times its size until reinforcements arrived. It had become something of a legend, though details were classified. Humans held that station with a garrison of only 40 soldiers for 6 days, Maya continued. You know how many military working dogs they had with them? Silence. 12. And those 12 dogs accounted for over 60% of the raiding party casualties. Dogs can detect explosives, track enemy movement through ventilation systems, provide early warning of attacks, and fight when necessary. They're force multipliers. One human with a trained dog is worth 3 or 4 soldiers without one in the right circumstances. She, paused, letting that sink in. But here's the thing. It's not just about the dog's abilities. It's about what the dog represents. Humans bond with our animals in ways that most species find bizarre. We'll risk our lives for them, die for them. And in exchange, they give us loyalty that has to be seen to be believed. That partnership, that trust, that's what makes us dangerous. The Tholian instructor stepped forward. Specialist Reeves, I believe we have time for one more demonstration. Perhaps something that showcases threat assessment and controlled force? Oh, absolutely. Maya turned to face a new section of the arena where several combat drones were emerging. These looked more serious than the training models. Military grade with actual weapons systems. These are set to stun intensity, but trust me, you don't want to get hit. I'm going to show you the difference between a dog in alert mode and a dog in full combat mode. She knelt beside Brutus, speaking quietly to him. The dog's ears perked up, his entire body going tense and focused. But his tail still wagged slightly, still in friend mode, despite the obvious tension. The drones activated, spreading out in a standard containment formation. Their weapons tracked Maya and Brutus, waiting for hostile action. So here's the situation, Maya narrated calmly, like she was describing a walk in the park, instead of being surrounded by armed drones. I'm outnumbered, outgunned, and in a tactical disadvantage. Most combat doctrine says I should retreat or surrender. Human combat doctrine says... She glanced down at Brutus. Well, we'll show you. Brutus, fast. The change was instantaneous and absolutely terrifying. The friendly dog vanished completely. What remained was a weapon with fur and teeth. Brutus launched himself at the nearest drone with a snarl that I felt in my bones. He hit it mid-center, jaws clamping onto a sensor cluster, and his weight and momentum brought it crashing down. But he didn't stop. The moment the first drone was down, he was already moving to the second. Maya moved with him, using his assault as cover to close distance on a third. They worked in perfect synchronization, each covering the other's vulnerabilities, creating chaos in the drones' targeting algorithms. One drone managed to fire. The stun blast hit Brutus in the shoulder. The dog yelped, stumbled, but kept going. Rage and training overrode pain. He took down 2 more drones before Maya called him back. Aus! Higher! Brutus disengaged immediately, returning to Maya's side despite the hit he'd taken. She checked him over quickly, hands moving with practiced efficiency, then gave him something from her pocket. A treat. Good boy, she murmured, loud enough for the microphones to pick up. Such a good boy. The dog's tail wagged. Combat mode off, friend mode back on. Just like that. Maya looked up at us, and her expression was serious now. That's the difference. Brutus just got shot. He's hurting. But he'll do it again, if I ask him to, because he trusts me, and because that's what we trained for. That level of dedication, that's what humans bring to the coalition. Not just our own combat skills, but the ability to inspire that kind of loyalty in other species. Even our predators. She paused. And before anyone asks, yes, Brutus is going to be fine. The medical staff will check him over after this. He'll get extra treats, and tomorrow he'll be back to normal. Pain is temporary. Training is forever. The Tholian instructor spoke again. Thank you, Specialist Reeves. Cadets, your assignment for this cycle is to write a tactical analysis of what you've witnessed today. Pay particular attention to the concept of force multiplication through interspecies cooperation. Dismissed. As we filed out, the conversation was a low roar of disbelief and nervous energy. Krelix stayed close to me, his scales still that worried green. "Vex," he said quietly. "The humans didn't just domesticate wolves and turn them into weapons." "No?" "No. They domesticated wolves and turned them into family members who are also weapons. That's so much worse." I thought about Brutus taking that stun blast and immediately returning when called. I thought about Maya checking him for injuries before anything else. I thought about the treat and the praise and the obvious affection between them, despite the violence they'd just demonstrated together. "Yeah," I agreed. "That's humanity in a nutshell. They make friends with apex predators and then invite them into their homes. They build bonds that defy logic and then weaponize those bonds when necessary. They create partnerships based on love and trust, and then use those partnerships to win battles. And they wonder why we're nervous around them." "To be fair," I said, watching through the window as Maya played with Brutus in the arena below, the dog's tail wagging frantically as she threw a ball for him to fetch. "I don't think they wonder at all. I think they know exactly how terrifying they are. They just choose to be friendly about it most of the time." Krelix shuddered. "Most of the time." "Most of the time," I confirmed. And that, I was learning, was the real lesson of the day. Not the combat techniques, or the force multiplication strategies, or even the impressive capabilities of Terran canines. The real lesson was understanding that humans had spent thousands of years turning the most dangerous creatures on their planet into loyal companions. And if they could do that with wolves, what might they do with the rest of the galaxy given enough time? It was a thought that kept me awake that night, and many nights after. 3 weeks after that first demonstration, I found myself assigned to what the instructors cheerfully called an integration exercise, which was military speak for, "We're going to throw you into a situation you're completely unprepared for and see what happens." The mission briefing was simple enough to make me suspicious. Our squad of 8 cadets would conduct a reconnaissance operation in the Telmar Canyon Simulation Zone, gather intelligence on enemy positions, and extract without being detected. Standard stuff, except for the part where we'd have human advisors embedded with us, and their dogs. "This is ridiculous," muttered Jax, a Corthan whose species prided themselves on their tactical superiority. "We've been running recon missions since before humans even discovered fire. What could they possibly teach us?" I could have told him, should have told him. But sometimes people need to learn lessons the hard way. We assembled at the drop point just after dawn. The simulation zone stretched out before us, a maze of rocky canyons and narrow passages that would test even experienced scouts. Somewhere in there, automated opponents waited to eliminate anyone careless enough to be spotted. Maya arrived with Brutus at her side, and another human I hadn't met before. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark skin, and the kind of calm demeanor that made you think he'd seen some things. A different breed of dog walked beside him, smaller than Brutus, but somehow more intense. Black and tan coloring, ears that stood straight up, eyes that missed absolutely nothing. "Morning, cadets," Maya greeted us with that eternal human cheerfulness. "This is Sergeant Marcus Williams and his partner, Luna. She's a Belgian Malinois, which is like Brutus, but with the energy level turned up to 11, and a work ethic that puts most officers to shame." Luna sat perfectly still, but I could see the tension in her muscles. This was a dog that wanted to be working, needed to be working, and was barely containing the urge to start right this second. "The rules are simple," Marcus explained, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd actually done this for real, not just in simulations. "You run your mission your way. We're observers only unless things go sideways. Our dogs will be ranging ahead on security sweeps, but they won't interfere with your tactical decisions. Think of them as early warning systems with teeth. Jax stepped forward, his crest flaring in what I'd learned to recognize as Corthan skepticism. With respect, Sergeant, my people have been conducting stealth operations for 700 years. I'm not sure how two animals crashing through the underbrush ahead of us qualifies as reconnaissance. Marcus smiled. It was a patient smile, the kind teachers give students who are about to learn something important. Tell you what, you take point, set the pace, run it how you see fit. If the dog's alert on something, maybe you listen, maybe you don't. Your call. Oh, I didn't like that smile at all. We moved out, Jax leading with the confidence of someone who'd never actually been in real combat. Our formation was textbook perfect. Proper spacing, good sight lines, covering angles like we'd been taught. The humans and their dogs followed at a distance, close enough to observe, but far enough to stay out of our way. For the first kilometer, everything went smoothly. We navigated the canyon passages, marked potential ambush points, and cataloged defensive positions exactly as the mission parameters required. Jax grew increasingly smug with each successful checkpoint. Then Brutus froze. The dog had been ranging ahead, moving silently through the rocks in a way that shouldn't have been possible for something that size. Now he stood completely still, one front paw raised, head turned toward a narrow side canyon. Maya raised a fist, and Marcus immediately stopped. Both humans watched their dogs with absolute focus. Luna had frozen too, her body rigid, ears forward, staring at the same spot Brutus had indicated. Contact, Maya said quietly. Both dogs alerting on the same position. That's not a coincidence. Jax waved a dismissive hand. My scanners show nothing. That passage is clear. The dogs probably smelled some local wildlife. Your call, Marcus replied evenly. But Luna doesn't alert on wildlife. She's trained to distinguish between threats and non-threats. We're moving forward, Jax insisted. The mission parameters require we pass through that canyon. We're already behind schedule. I saw Maya exchange a look with Marcus. She gave a tiny shrug that said, I tried, and signaled Brutus to stand down. Both dogs relaxed slightly, but kept watching that canyon passage with obvious concern. We entered the narrow defile, and for about 10 seconds, Jax looked vindicated. See? Nothing to worry about. Just paranoid humans and their oversensitive animals. Then the ambush sprung. Combat drones dropped from concealed positions in the rock walls, catching us in a perfect crossfire. Stun rounds filled the air, and half our squad went down in the first 3 seconds. I threw myself behind a boulder, cursing my own stupidity for not listening to the dogs. Jax, to his credit, didn't freeze. He immediately started barking orders, trying to organize a fighting retreat. But we were pinned down, outgunned, and completely exposed. Brutus! Voraus! Luna! Such! The dogs exploded into motion before Maya even finished speaking. Brutus went low, using the rocks for cover as he flanked left. Luna went high, impossibly scaling a near-vertical rock face to reach an elevated drone position. What happened next was a masterclass in controlled aggression. Brutus hit the first drone cluster from an angle they couldn't track, his jaws finding critical components with precision that suggested he'd done this before. A lot. Luna dropped onto a drone from above, her smaller size letting her target vulnerabilities Brutus couldn't reach. But it wasn't just the dogs. Maya and Marcus moved with them, covering their approaches, providing suppressing fire, creating chaos in the drone's tactical algorithms. They worked as integrated units, human and canine, each partnership covering the other's movements. Within 30 seconds, the ambush was broken. The drones retreated to regroup, giving us the opening we needed to withdraw to a defensible position. Jax stared at the humans and their dogs with something approaching religious awe. How did they know? Smell, Marcus explained, checking Luna over for damage. Dogs can detect electronics, chemical propellants, even the heat signature from drone power cores if they're trained right. Luna picked up scent traces from those drones the moment we entered the canyon approach. Brutus confirmed it. That's why they both alerted. But my scanners, Jax protested weakly. We're looking for active energy signatures, Maya finished. Those drones were in standby mode, minimal emissions. Your tech couldn't see them. But dogs don't rely on tech. They rely on millions of years of evolution that gave them noses with 300 million scent receptors and the brain capacity to process that information faster than most computers. She paused, scratching Brutus behind his ears. Also, they're really, really good at their jobs. The rest of the mission went very differently. Jax, his pride thoroughly demolished, actually started listening when the dogs alerted. We avoided 2 more ambush points, located 3 concealed observation posts, and completed the entire intelligence gathering requirement without losing another squad member. But the real lesson came during our extraction. We were half a kilometer from the pickup point when Luna suddenly went rigid. Her ears flattened, a low growl building in her chest that made my sensory tendrils quiver in instinctive fear. Marcus dropped into a combat crouch immediately. Luna's in threat mode. Something's wrong. The extraction zone is clear, protested Vin, a Quellian who'd been monitoring the scanners. I'm not picking up anything. Maya pulled out a small device, studying its screen. Her expression hardened. Marcus, I'm reading electromagnetic interference. Something's jamming our communications. That's not part of the simulation parameters, I said, feeling dread settle in my stomach. No, Marcus agreed grimly. It's not. Brutus moved to Maya's side, his entire demeanor shifting. Both dogs now stood in full alert posture, hackles raised, focused on the extraction zone ahead. Whatever was there, the dogs knew it was dangerous. Maya tapped her comm unit. Command, this is Training Unit 7. We have unexplained jamming and possible hostile contact at Extraction Point Delta. Request immediate clarification. Static. That's really not good, she muttered. Then louder, to all of us, Cadets, combat formation. Humans up front, dogs on point. Something is very wrong here. We moved forward cautiously, every nerve screaming warnings. The extraction zone came into view, a flat area surrounded by rocks, perfect for a pickup. And standing in the middle of it were 3 figures that definitely weren't supposed to be there. They wore combat armor I didn't recognize, carrying weapons that looked far too real for a training exercise. One of them saw us and raised a weapon in our direction. Down! Marcus roared, and we hit the dirt as an energy bolt scorched the air where we'd been standing. Those are real weapons, Jax screamed, stating the obvious in that special way people do when panic sets in. This is supposed to be a simulation. Yeah, well, somebody forgot to tell them that, Maya snapped back. Marcus, you getting anything on comms? Nothing. We're completely isolated. The 3 armored figures advanced, and I realized with sick certainty what was happening. This wasn't part of the training. This was a real incursion, probably pirates or raiders who'd used the simulation as cover to land in coalition territory. And we, a bunch of barely trained cadets and 2 human instructors, were all that stood between them and whatever objective they'd come for. Options? Marcus asked calmly, like we weren't all about to die horribly. Maya assessed the situation with quick, professional efficiency. 3 hostiles, superior firepower, were outgunned and can't call for backup. Standard human tactical doctrine applies. Which is, when in doubt, cause chaos, and let the dogs work. Marcus actually grinned. My favorite doctrine. Cadets, listen carefully. When I give the signal, you're going to run left, find cover, and stay there. Do not engage. Do not be heroes. Just survive. What are you going to do? I asked. Something incredibly stupid that will probably work because humans are terrifying. He looked at his partner. Luna, ready? The dog's tail gave a single, eager wag. She was ready. Brutus? Maya asked. Another tail wag, this one from a much larger dog who looked downright eager to bite someone in armor. On my mark, Marcus said. 3, 2, 1, mark! We ran left. The humans ran straight at the raiders. Or more accurately, the humans released their dogs and then provided covering fire while Brutus and Luna did what thousands of years of breeding, training, and partnership had prepared them to do. They attacked. I watched from behind cover, unable to look away despite my terror. Luna hit the first raider at full speed, 60 pounds of muscle and determination targeting the weak points in armor joints. The raider went down hard, his weapon flying from his hands as he tried desperately to dislodge the snarling animal from his arm. Brutus took a different approach. He went for intimidation, his bark echoing off the canyon walls like thunder, making even armored raiders flinch back. When one of them tried to shoot at Maya, Brutus launched himself at the weapon, jaws clamping onto the barrel and wrenching it aside with terrifying strength. Maya and Marcus pressed the advantage, moving in close where the raiders' superior weapons became liabilities. This wasn't a firefight anymore. It was a brawl, close quarters, and desperate, exactly where humans excelled. One raider managed to land a kick on Luna. The dog yelped, tumbled, came up limping. Rage flashed across Marcus's face, the kind of cold fury that made me remember what Maya had said about humans and their partners. Nobody, Marcus said with deadly calm, hurts my dog. What happened next would probably violate several coalition regulations on excessive force. Marcus moved with precision and violence that suggested very specialized training, the kind you didn't get in standard military service. Within seconds, all 3 raiders were on the ground, disarmed, and very thoroughly convinced that continuing to fight was a bad idea. Maya immediately went to check on Luna while Marcus secured the prisoners. The dog was favoring her left front leg, but her tail wagged when Maya examined her. Bruised, not broken, Maya announced with obvious relief. She'll be okay. Brutus? Fine. Show-off didn't even get scratched. Marcus glanced at us. Cadets, you can come out now. Crisis over. We emerged from cover, and I noticed my hands were shaking. Actual combat. Real danger. People, or at least raiders, who'd wanted to kill us. And we'd survived because 2 humans and their dogs had turned a hopeless situation into a winning one through sheer audacity and perfectly coordinated violence. How did you know? Jax asked, his voice small. How did the dogs know something was wrong before we even saw them? Scent, body language, something in the air that triggered their training, Marcus explained, checking his comm unit. Ah, there we go. Jamming's down. Command is inbound. Should be here in 5 minutes. Apparently, these idiots thought hitting a training exercise would be an easy score. He nudged one of the unconscious raiders with his boot. They thought wrong. Maya joined us, Brutus at her side. The dog looked absolutely pleased with himself, tongue lolling out in a happy pant, like he'd just finished playing fetch instead of helping take down armed raiders. So, she said, fixing all of us with a serious look. What did we learn today? That humans are insane? Vin offered weakly. Well, yes, obviously. But what else? I raised a tentacle. That the dogs know things we don't. That they're not just weapons or tools. They're partners with capabilities that complement human weaknesses. And that ignoring their warnings is a good way to get killed. Maya smiled, the genuine kind without the usual sarcasm. Now you're getting it. Dogs can't read tactical displays or operate scanners, but they can smell danger, sense threats, and react to situations faster than most technology. Combined with human adaptability and willingness to do incredibly risky things, that partnership becomes something greater than the sum of its parts. Coalition security forces arrived shortly after, taking custody of the raiders and thoroughly scanning the area for any other surprises. The training exercise was officially cancelled, which probably counted as a win in most people's books. As we waited for transport back to the main facility, I sat watching Brutus and Luna. Both dogs had settled down now, the combat readiness fading back into that friendly, approachable demeanor that made you forget they were capable of extreme violence. Luna still limped slightly, and Marcus kept checking on her with obvious concern. Brutus had claimed a sunny spot and appeared to be napping. "They're not actually pets, are they?" I asked Maya. "The friendly behavior, the playing, the treats, that's real, but it's not the complete picture." "No," Maya agreed. "They're working dogs, bred and trained for specific purposes. But here's the thing, Vex. The partnership only works if the bond is genuine. You can't fake that kind of trust. Brutus obeys me because we've built a relationship based on mutual respect, clear communication, and yes, affection. I take care of him, he takes care of me. That's not a weakness. That's what makes the system work. Your people weaponized friendship." "We weaponized cooperation," she corrected. "Humans don't dominate other species. We partner with them. Sometimes that partnership looks like friendship. Sometimes it looks like a working relationship. But it's always built on communication and trust." She paused. "That's what makes us effective in the coalition, too. We don't just follow orders blindly. We work with others, understand their strengths and weaknesses, and find ways to complement each other. Just like with the dogs." Krelix approached, his scales finally returning to a normal color. "The instructors want us to write reports on today's events. All of them." "Going to be a long report," I muttered. "Worth it, though." Krelix looked at the dogs, then at the humans. "I understand now what the others meant. Humans aren't scary because they're warriors. They're scary because they make warriors out of their friends, and friends out of their warriors. That's a level of social cohesion most species can't even conceptualize." Maya overheard and laughed. "That's probably the most insightful analysis of human culture I've heard from a non-human. Mind if I quote you?" "Please don't. My family already thinks I'm obsessed with Earth species." "Too late. Definitely quoting you." The transport arrived, and we loaded up for the flight back. Brutus claimed the seat next to mine, apparently deciding I was acceptable now that I'd survived a real combat situation. His head was the size of my torso, and occasionally he'd look at me with those intense brown eyes that seemed to see right through to my core. "He likes you," Maya observed. "Probably because you didn't panic when he took you down that first time. Dogs respect composure under pressure." I was absolutely panicking. "Yeah, but you didn't show it. That matters to dogs. They read emotional states really well." I tentatively reached out and touched Brutus's head. His fur was softer than I'd expected, thick and warm. He leaned into the contact, making a satisfied sound deep in his chest. "That's a contented rumble," Maya translated. "Means he's happy. Congratulations, you've made friends with an apex predator." "Is that what humans feel like all the time?" Making friends with things that could kill you? Pretty much. We had bears raiding our garbage, big cats stalking our livestock, wolves circling our campfires. Instead of just killing them all, we found ways to coexist, found ways to cooperate. Sometimes that meant domestication, like with dogs. Sometimes it meant mutual respect from a distance, like with most predators. But the principle remained the same. Understand what you're dealing with, communicate clearly, and never underestimate the value of partnership. The facility came into view, and I realized something. Over the past few weeks, I'd learned more about practical combat, tactical thinking, and team coordination than in all my previous training combined. Not because humans were better warriors, though they certainly were effective, but because they understood something fundamental that most species missed. Strength wasn't just about individual capability. It was about building connections, fostering trust, and creating partnerships that amplified everyone's abilities. Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting this with their animals. Now they were applying those same principles to the entire coalition. And honestly, that was more terrifying and more hopeful than anything else I could imagine. "Hey, Vex," Maya said as we disembarked. "You did good today. Listened to the warnings, adapted to changing circumstances, kept your head when things went wrong. That's what we look for in soldiers." "I mostly just tried not to die." "Yeah, but you tried effectively. That counts." She paused. "We're running another exercise next week. Combat patrol in urban terrain. Want to sign up?" I looked at Brutus, who was watching me with that intelligent gaze. Looked at Luna, still limping but tail wagging as Marcus fussed over her. Looked at the two humans who'd turned a disaster into a victory through skill, courage, and an unshakable bond with their animal partners. "Yes," I heard myself say. "Yes, I want to sign up." Maya grinned. "Outstanding. Fair warning, though, the urban course is harder. More variables, tighter spaces, greater chance of things going wrong. So, basically, another standard day with humans?" "Now you're getting it. Welcome to advanced training, Vex. Try not to die. It's really bad for team morale." As I watched her walk away, Brutus trotting happily at her side, I realized humanity's secret weapon wasn't technology or tactics, or even their unsettling comfort with violence. It was their absolute conviction that anything could become family if you approached it right, including alien cadets who'd started out thinking humans were crazy. Maybe we were all a little crazy now, but maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed. After all, humans had befriended wolves and created dogs. What might they create with the rest of us given enough time? The answer, I suspected, would reshape the entire coalition, and I was oddly okay with that.